Um, Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining our persona training. Today is Sunday. Week on week, we are having persona training, and today we have a wonderful speaker, Vishnu, with us, talking about water conservation. And water conservation is one of the need of the hour when we are heading towards summer. Uh, how we use the water, how we preserve the water, and how we save for the next season and the next generation is a very important topic that is being needs to be discussed. And I thank Jason Nitin Shetty for organizing such a very good speaker with us. Uh, I request Jason Nitin Shetty to help us with today's introduction of today's speaker. Over to you, Jason Nitin Shetty.
Thank you, President. Life depends on water, but the reservoir depends on you. President of today's web series, it's my privilege today to introduce in short of today's speaker, Mr. Vishnu Sharma A. He completed his bachelor degree in environmental engineering from Sri Jaya Chamarajendra College of Engineering, Mysore. He did his master's degree in environmental engineering from MIT, presently pursuing PhD on modeling of contamination transport through agriculture soil of Swarna Madishal River Basin. Currently, he is an assistant professor in the Department of Civil Engineering, Manipal Institute of Technology, Manipal. He has successfully completed a project on improving industrial water users case study for the distiller in Karnataka at Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, Bangalore, in the year 2012. He has developed a low-cost rainwater harvesting filter for water collected on rooftop of buildings and other catchment areas. He has designed a few effluent treatment plants for different industries such as textiles, cartoon box manufacturing, battery recycling, etc., and advanced wastewater treatment plants for institutions and apartments. Recently, he has developed a strategy for the effective groundwater recharge by identification of subsurface fractures and faults for Beltangadi and Bantwal Talus. And it is a very first stage of implementation. So today, here is the guest speaker, Mr. Vishnu Sharma A. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Jason Nitin Shetty, for this wonderful introduction. In fact, today we are having 34th persona training and first of 2021. A lot of informative trainings have been happening at Persona, and happy to have host today, Vishnu, with us. Over to you, Vishnu. We are eagerly listening to, waiting to listen to you about the water preservations. Over to
Yeah,
you, Vishnu.
thank you. Thank you, President and Mr. Nitin Shetty for elaborative introduction. And just let us start with the presentation. How about it? Shall we go with the presentation?
Sure, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, let me share my screen. It's a small presentation. Let me see. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. And so today's topic is water conservation strategies. Rightly said by the president that it's a need of the hour topic, and everybody is equally responsible for conserving water. So we'll just proceed with the presentation. The flow of the presentation would be, I'll be discussing the concept of water conservation in ancient India, how our ancestors used to do their job responsibly, and then importance of water conservation, not in the general context though. As an environmental engineer, what I feel that has to be done or what can be done for preserving the water. And then the present scenario of water management, what is the existing status in the Indian context, in the context of Karnataka, what we are doing, what is lacking, what is the gap between the existing and future needs, and finally, strategies for water conservation, what we can do. So this is the flow of the presentation. So after the presentation, if you have any queries, you can Feel free to ask. To the best of my knowledge, I will be explaining that. So coming to the basics of nature, basics of environment, if we refer to our ancient scriptures, it's very well written in that nature is made up of mainly 5 great elements, which are called as Panchabhutas. So it is water, air, fire, space, and earth. So if you see individual element, every element has its own importance. And these 5 elements, that is what makes the nature. And that's what makes all of us. So if we start discussing on individual entity or individual element, it itself will be a separate topic. So I'll be deviating that. So instead, I'll restrict myself to first component, that is water. We'll see what is water, what is the importance of that, and how we can contribute to the conservation of water. That's what we will be discussing in the coming slides. Now, again, if we go back and look into the Vedic scriptures, there they have mentioned about, especially the Vedas have stressed more on the protection and development of water systems. And if you refer some of the Upanishads or some of the Vedic scriptures, they have mentioned about water cycle. How fascinating it. Just look at it. Now we are referring to various textbooks or reference materials about water cycle or hydrological cycle. After rainfall, where the water goes, it goes to, as a surface runoff, it reaches the primary streams, and then it goes to secondary streams, and finally it reaches the river. Finally, it goes to ocean, and from ocean, due to evaporation, it goes to the atmosphere, and then it condenses, again rainfall. So this is the basic cycle, how the water moves in the atmosphere. So this concept is being documented, and probably Chandogya is one of the oldest reference for hydrological cycle. The reason why I stress more on these ancient scriptures is because we have to just see the wisdom of our ancestors, how good they were in handling environmental issues, key environmental issues, and they have done enormous work in conserving our environment. It is not only about water; it's everything about environment. They used to conserve. They used to give it to the next generation. What we see here is the water canal irrigation system and channeling design in Harappan civilization. You can just see how beautifully they have designed the water storage system or water carrying system, or probably it is the storage of rainwater. We don't exactly know what are these structures, but we can make out from the image that these are some of the irrigation or channels or canal systems for water carrying. That means now we discuss about sustainable development. We define it like utilization of resources in such a way that by considering the future generations' need without compromising our needs. So that's the definition of sustainable development that we talk about. But just look at these documents, long back, centuries ago, our ancestors used to do all these practices, but they all had enough water. They need not to conserve the water because they had ample amount of water. There was a saying, our ancestors saw water in a flowing river, they directly drank the water. My grandfather, probably at his age, he saw water in springs, spring water. My father, their generation, they saw water in a well. Our generation, we are looking water in a deep well, that is bore well. We are digging 2000 feet below the ground. That means we are touching the water which is stored probably 10,000 years ago. The deep aquifers below 10,000 or below 1,000 or 2,000 feet, that means it is stored 10,000, probably more than that, years of old water. Now we are trying to withdraw it. So if the system or situation continues, our future or our own kids may see water in a capsule or a tonic. So that days are not very far. So when we see the amount of resources our ancestors had, then they actually need not to have these kind of strategies to preserve that, but they have done it. So we need not to search for any of the literatures or any of the articles, any textbooks, how to conserve the water or how to optimize the water usage, or how to reduce water loss. We can just read our own history, we can just replicate what our ancestors have done in the past. So our future will be very, very enjoyable with respect to environmental conditions. Now, with this, we will move to the importance of water conservation. And I don't discuss more on what is water or what is the importance of water in the general context, because it is known to everybody. So what is the amount of water that is available in the world and how much we can use it for drinking purpose or our day-to-day activity? It is less than 1% of all the water which is fit for human consumption. That is a well-known fact. But instead of focusing in a general context, let me put some or shed some light on in the perspective of environmental engineer. As an environmental engineer, what I see in water or water usage. For that, let us question ourselves that how much water is being used per person per day, or how much water that we reuse, or how much water that we recycle, and how much water that we are wasting every day. So these things that needs to be addressed. Now, if you ask me what is the amount of water that a common man uses every day, it is approximately 135 to 150 liters. That is the standard that we consider when we design a water supply line or whenever we design a wastewater treatment facility. So it is 150, roughly we will take it as 150. If you go to a developed country, it may go up to 300 also. As a developing country, it is approximately 150 liters per capita per day. Out of that, 80% of the water that we use is coming out as a wastewater. That means 150 liter out of that 80% is approximately 120 liters of wastewater which is generated per person. Now, if I consider there are 4 people in a house, so you can just calculate how much, around 600 liters will be used per day. Out of that, 80% will be coming out as a wastewater. Where it goes to a drain, and ultimately if our area is developed and it has underground drainage system UGD, then it will be going to the UGD, and ultimately it reaches the sewage treatment plant, and there it will be treated. Now just imagine, out of that 120 liters, whether that 120 liter requires the same treatment that is given in the sewage treatment plant. That question needs to be addressed. Basically, that 120 liters will not be coming out of the toilet because we are not using 120 liters for flushing. Probably a 20 liters per person will be going through a toilet through the drain, but rest 100 liter, if we can segregate at the source, just segregation at the source, what is required? The only thing that required is a basic plumbing arrangements. Probably our house is now all plumbing fixtures are already it has been in place. So once the water which is coming out of the toilet, bathroom, kitchen, sink, washing machine, everything goes to a single point and it is discharged. Actually, the entire wastewater need not to be treated in a way how sewage is being treated. So if we segregate that 100 liters of water from the toilet drain, that 100 liter can be reused. So there is a potential scope or opportunity for us to reuse that 100 liter of water per day. So you just imagine, I will take 95 liter, not even 100. So 380 liters per day per house. So that approximately makes around 11,500 liters per month. Per year, if we calculate, it is 130,000 odd liters of water can be reused, where we use around 216 liters of water per year. You just see, out of 216,000 liters of water that we use for domestic consumption, 130,000 can be reused either for toilet flushing or for gardening or for any other recreational activity without wasting it to the drain. So this has to be done, which is called as source segregation. So this holds good in every environmental problem. If you discuss about solid waste, if we segregate the waste at the source, the most of the problem is gone. But that is where we are failing to complete probably our duty. And that is the scope for gray water. The gray water is nothing but the water which is coming out from the bathrooms, kitchen sink, and washing machines. So from these three, if we segregate the water, if we can treat it, we need not to invest so much of amount to treat this. It is a very simple mechanism, probably less than 5,000 rupees. We can do this and we can reuse this. Just we have to have that mindset to reuse the water. Probably in the down the line of few decades, the water bill may take over the current bill. So that may be possible because as a place in Dakshina Kannada, we receive annually 4,500 millimeter of rainfall. That means if we construct a compound wall for the entire Dakshina Kannada district, around 4 meter of water will be stored. That means Dakshina Kannada will be under 4 meter of water head. When we receive that huge amount of water, still if we go to a state of water scarcity, we have to blame ourselves. It is not we are putting blame on anybody else. So that is where we are failing. Probably that is where we have to see and address those issues. Now, coming to the objectives of wastewater treatment, why I discuss wastewater here when I talk about water conservation, basically, there is a correlation between the treatment of wastewater that we are doing and the water that we get from the nature. There is a correlation between that. So why we are failing in achieving a best quality treatment is because we have to see four major aspects when we discuss about wastewater engineering. First of all, we should know what is the composition of that waste. So what is present in a wastewater? It contains a lot of ammonium, nitrate, nitrogen, phosphorus, alkalinity, conductivity, BOD. Technically, we can speak so many aspects what present in wastewater. But before looking at the treatment, so we have to start from composition, and from there we should know what is its impact. When it is discharged untreated, what happens to the nature? So what happens very next point, if we discharge a wastewater to a flowing river, you just see the wastewater that contains organic contaminants which requires oxygen for converting themselves into an unstable organic state to a stable compound. So during the process of conversion from unstable state to a stable state, it requires oxygen. So from where that oxygen taken, it is taken from the water. So in water, there is dissolved oxygen, the oxygen that we respire from the atmosphere. Similarly, the aquatic life requires dissolved oxygen, which is present in water. So that dissolved oxygen, instead of utilizing that dissolved oxygen for the survival of the aquatic life, the dissolved oxygen will be utilized for converting this unstable organic compounds to stable compounds. Then what happens? There will be definitely a deficit for aquatic life. They cannot sustain or they cannot live there. They may migrate from one place to another place. Just we have to see the aquatic life is very, very sensitive to their habitat. They cannot live close to their habitat, very near to their habitat. If you take it from there and if you put it in somewhere else, if you provide all the condition, the aquatic life, most of the sensitive aquatic life cannot survive because they are very sensitive to their habitat. Now, once the dissolved oxygen present in the water goes down and down, the aquatic life cannot sustain and they have to migrate. If the higher order, if it is a higher order aquatic life, they will sustain. If it is very lower, very sensitive, they will die. So this is the impact of the wastewater that we discharge. And why this is a major problem? The surface water will continuously interact with the groundwater that we rely upon. The most of the people in Dakshina Kannada and Udupi district, we rely on well water or bore wells for our day-to-day water demand. Not 100% municipality water is supplied to every corner of our district. So most of the rural people are dependent on groundwater. Now this surface water, when it interacts with the groundwater, lot of exchange that takes place. All the composition that present in the surface water will be interacting with the groundwater composition. So the groundwater quality may deteriorate if we don't take any action in the treatment of this wastewater. Now, this is the impact at the point of discharge, immediate impact. Now, sometimes it may not have any impact immediately. Instead, it will take a long time to have its impact. A best example that I can quote is the microplastics. We have heard a lot about microplastics in recent time. So the research says the microplastics have even entered the womb. Just imagine from where it has come. It has entered our food chain. That means we are not directly discharged or throwing microplastics. What is the definition of microplastic? The size is very, very small. The less than 5 mm. The size of the plastic, if it is less than 5 mm, it may go up to nano also. That is considered as microplastic. So we throw the plastic outside. So due to sunlight, UV radiation, plastic tend to break. When the degraded plastic ultimately reaches the river, in the river, probably from it reaches the ocean. In the ocean, the small fishes or aquatic life, they feel this microplastic as their food. So they tend to eat it. And when we eat the fishes, it enters to the human body. That means it has not happened yesterday or 2 days back. This process might have started 20 or 30 years back. So all the environmental problems, when they come to the surface, it has already passed 20 years of its existence in nature. So overnight, the environmental problems will not arise. So environment will give us enough time to correct ourselves. So we have to put all our effort just to correct our mistakes and rectify it and come up with a solution or a strategy. So that is an example for long-term transformation. So when a wastewater is discharged, probably down the line of 2 months or 3 months, it may have some impact on our own well. So if there is a septic tank near to our house, and if the well water is located less than 50 feet from the septic tank, probably down the line of 10 years or 20 years, the septic tank may interact with our well. Then we get a oily layer on the surface of the well water, or some bad odor in our well water, or there may be some foam on the surface of well water, or there may be a thick layer at the bottom of the utensil when we keep the water for overnight, or there may be some scaling on the surface of the water or the utensils. All these problems will encounter or arise as we take as the negligence increases. So that's the importance of long-term transformation. So if we understand the composition right, if we analyze the impacts correctly, and if we predict the long-term transformation of the waste, then we can come up with a treatment. The environmental engineers, we do a very similar kind of job that a doctor do. So he diagnoses a patient. Similarly, we diagnose a problem with respect to the environment. And if we understand all the above 3 points clearly, definitely we can recommend a perfect treatment, so that can take care of all the 3 problems with respect to water. Now we will just move to the scenario in the Indian context. So if we see, as a whole country, we generate around 63,000 million liters of water. That means 63,000 into 10 to the power 6 liters of water every day. That is the wastewater generation. If we see, in another hand, what is the amount that is treated? The capacity of the treatment plant that we have is around 28,000 million liters, whereas the wastewater generation is 63,000 million liters. Okay, forget about it. Come to Karnataka. So we generate around 3,700 million liters of wastewater per day. What is the treatment capacity that we have? It is approximately 1,300 million liters of wastewater can be treated in the established treatment facility. That means around 30% of the total waste that is generated will be treated, and rest 60% or 65%, where it goes? It's simple mass balance. We have to be very careful when once the wastewater is discharged out of our house, we have to treat it. Otherwise, it will go and reach the surface water body or lakes or any reservoirs. Ultimately, we have seen enough of these case studies. If you remember, a year or two, in Bangalore, we have seen the foam which is flying everywhere. It doesn't even improve the aesthetics, doesn't make anything, ultimately causing a lot of problems for the residents. Probably the reason we have to figure out, the capacity of the treatment plant is only 30%, and the wastewater that is generated where it goes, the rest of the wastewater either has to reach the river or lake or ocean or any land disposal. Probably that is what is happening. Where we are failing in that, we are now equipped with the conventional wastewater treatment. And there are two terminologies. One is conventional and one is advanced treatment. People are more inclined towards conventional treatment because it has been tested over centuries. 100 years back, we have documents that activated sludge process, that is basically a suspended growth process, is been started long back. So people are believing that technology over advanced treatment technology because it is being tested for various conditions. I'm not denying the fact that conventional systems works perfectly fine, but at present, we need a treated water quality such that it should not affect any of the surface water bodies nor the groundwater body. Whether our conventional system will be able to give such quality water, probably it is not 100% we can claim that conventional system will give that. Unless and until we have a tertiary treatment to a conventional system, it is not possible. So if we go with the tertiary treatment, that is again considered as advanced treatment. So the implementation of this advanced treatment has to take place. And now government is also taking initiative. The Central Pollution Control Board as well as State Pollution Control Board, they are coming up with the stringent norms of pollution discharge. So that only can be achieved through advanced treatment, not through simple conventional treatment. So at present, we are all experiencing this pandemic. So this COVID-19 virus will also enter into a sewage treatment plant. Definitely it will enter. So once it enters to the treatment plants, do you think it will be eliminated there? The entire sewage treatment plant of our city, or not our city, the entire world's most of the sewage treatment plants are run by very humble creatures on earth. They are microorganisms. They are feeding upon the waste which is coming to the sewage treatment plant, and they are not well trained to handle any viruses. I'm not speaking about only COVID. Any virus that enters to the sewage treatment plant cannot be treated by simple microorganisms that we use for sewage treatment, because they are not trained to remove these contaminants. So that is the main problem that we are facing. The microorganisms which are present in the wastewater treatment facility are not equipped to remove some of the viruses or personal care products, pharmaceuticals, because the excess tablets that we have at our home, we may throw it in a drain and that will come to the sewage treatment plant. Personal care products, when we use scrub, pharmaceuticals and personal care products, that's what we call it as PPCPs, personal care products and pharmaceutical products. Once they are discharged into a common drain, once they reach the treatment plant, the microorganisms cannot remove them. What happens then? It enters to the discharge end, where it is being discharged. Wastewater is discharged to a river or any agriculture practices for irrigation. It is for irrigation, and they will be dissolved in a root zone. What happens in the root zone? Roots will uptake these contaminants, and that will be transferred to the fruit, or if it is discharged to a river, it will be taken up by the aquatic life, and ultimately again it will enter the food chain. So this is the life cycle of various contaminants which are not intended to be removed in sewage treatment plant. For this, the advanced treatment facility has to be implemented. That is where the advanced treatment is required. So here I've shown in the figure the primary treatment, what happens in the sewage treatment plant. Technically, I don't discuss more, but ultimately the final part. So if you can focus on the right side, there are A, B, C, D. No further treatment, disinfection, AOP, that is advanced oxidation process, and finally membrane filtration. So membrane filtration is a best suited technology for eliminating any type of contaminant, probably to a virus scale. because virus is considered as the smallest thing that can pass through any of the treatment facility, any filters. So only membranes can take care of these viruses. So here we have to focus more. So whenever we come across people who are building apartments, or if any one of us meeting any people who are in institutions or hospitals, hostels, or any kind of bulk generators, we have to take these kind of measures. We have to upgrade our existing sewage treatment plant to advanced sewage treatment. It doesn't require much of energy, much of design work. So with the minimum design, we can upgrade the existing sewage treatment to a advanced sewage treatment where it can take care of all these processes, and the treated water can definitely be reused for toilet flushing. And that is the target that we all have to keep. Then only the problems we can address in a professional manner. Finally, coming to the thoughts on water conservation, what my points as an environmental engineer, what I see. The first one is water budgeting. What exactly water budgeting? We all know about financial budgeting. Similar to financial budgeting, water budgeting is a very simple mechanism through which we have to see the total amount of water that we take it either from well, borewell, or from municipality. We know what is the overhead tank capacity. We have to just take that as a whole number, and we have to distribute it, how much we are using for drinking, for bathing, for other purposes. And then we have to retrospect whether we are polling in any of these usages. If it is so we have to take care of that. We have to retrospect, and we have to rectify if we are using in excess. So that is the very first and foremost point that every one of us has to do it. The second one is deep aquifer recharge. We speak a lot about rainwater harvesting and water conservation. Rainwater harvesting is simply storing the water. Where are we storing? We may be storing in our sump, or some people, we may have dug 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter deep holes, and we are just putting the roof water into that, and we are waiting for it to percolate underground. That doesn't happen. See, when we identify a recharge point, scientifically, we have to identify where the faults are, where the subsurface fractures are. Only then we have to choose that point right. Otherwise, whatever recharge that we are doing will flow as a base flow and reach the river and ultimately reach the ocean. We are just slowing the movement of water. Actually, that is one way it is good. At least 1 meter by 1 meter of the soil profile will get saturated, but it is not going to benefit all of us for a long run. We have to find aquifers, we have to mark the aquifer boundary, and where a suitable point is identified, at that point we have to give the recharge well, which is called as deep aquifer recharging facility. So that is what we have done it for Beltangadi and Bantwala Taluk in the past 1 year. So we have identified the drainage points, we have identified where the faults are, subsurface faults, because when the two rocks are moving one over the other, that creates a fault. So at that point, if we give the water, it flows like a river in the subsurface. So that is one way. Or at least in our own capacity, we have to put some effort to have a simple filtration for our rooftop water, which is stored during rainy season. And with the basic filtration, it requires only hardly 2,000 or 3,000 rupees. And that water can be recharged to a well or bore well. Well will not be overflowing. 99% of the wells will not overflow, though we think our water will rise to the top. So if we again give it to the well, it will overflow. You try it, it will not overflow. So that kind of practice, if we do it, probably we can overcome the water crisis. Reusing grey water, that's what I told earlier. Try to segregate the waste stream into concentrated waste stream and diluted waste stream. Concentrated waste stream only comes from toilets, and all the other wastewater stream from sink, kitchen sink, and then from bathrooms and from washing machines. Let us club all these three together and have a small treatment system and try to reuse the water for toilet flushing or the gardening. That eliminates most of the problem. Otherwise, see, as we are reducing, in our area is reducing day by day. We are living in 5 cents or 10 cents, probably 2 cents, 3 cents, some of the people. And everybody, if they want to have an open well, and if it is not UGD connected area, then everybody will have to have their own septic tank or soak pit. Today or tomorrow, the septic tank waste water will leak into our aquifer, and not only my well gets contaminated, the entire aquifer, if it gets contaminated because of one person's responsibility, everybody has to pay the price. Because the wastewater doesn't know whether I'm going towards my neighbor's well water or towards my well water. It is moving in all 360-degree direction, so ultimately causing problems to everyone. That's we have seen this in Kapu. We have seen these problems. 3-4 very highly yielding wells have gone in 1 or 2 days. Okay, once the aquifer gets contaminated, believe me, it is a very difficult task to treat it back, because we don't know what happens in the subsurface. We cannot see it, so we have to only simulate the result, and through computer applications we have to just using our professional knowledge, we have to take actions. So underground contaminant transport is going to be a biggest challenge in near future. Finally, it is interdependency. We are moving towards a nuclear family, so we don't interact with our neighbors, and we think that we are independent, and our neighbors also think they are independent, and everybody is independent now. But one thing that we have to know, the water that I am depending on, the water that my neighbors are depending on, every water drop will interact with neighbor's water. That is how the entire aquifer system is. So they are interacting, so they are not independent, they are interdependent. So we have to learn this lesson from the nature, interdependency. So if I recharge the well water, if I am not getting benefited, my neighbor may get benefited. So if he also does the same, then I will be benefited. So I am doing it for the entire community, I am one among the community, so I also get benefited out of it. So this is the motivation that all of us have to have, so as to overcome the water crisis. And if we face water crisis, we ourselves have to take the blame, because as I told earlier, Dakshina Kannada, we are close to the Western Ghats, and we receive a huge amount of rainfall. Despite of that, if we fail to recharge it to the underground, or it is very similar to, my professor gives always gives this analogy, the groundwater aquifer, that is borewell water, is considered as uh, fixed deposit, FD. Unless and until we renew it, we should not touch it. So if you touch the fixed deposit unnecessarily, definitely it will cause a huge problem in the near future. So all of us have to take a responsibility, including myself. We work together, and we will come up with very basic strategies. There are no rocket science that I've discussed here. It is all known fact, but it has to be practiced. So that's the only request that I have. I've already taken 40 minutes of my time, and thank you for your kind attention. So if anybody have any questions or any points that needs to be discussed, let us have a discussion. And thank you again. I sincerely thank founder, president, and all the members of JCI for calling me for this wonderful knowledge sharing session. And I especially thank Mr. Nitin Shetty for organizing this, and I'm grateful to you, sir. Thank you, one and all.
Yeah, thank you, Vishnu. It's very wonderful information you have shared. I think this is one of the best session I have enjoyed. It is not only got the information, rather than it is showing some responsibility that which I have on Mother Earth to like to increase this water conservation, as well as The last point which you told, it is registered in my mind. We are interdependent, and then only we can survive. We can help each other. We can definitely leave some deposit to others. In this regard, do you do any nature awareness event or for any residents? Do you organize, or can we think on these lines?
Yeah, definitely you can think of. I'm happy to come out, and I can also share some of the thoughts that I have, because me and my team, we extensively work on this rainwater harvesting. I mean, I don't do that as a product, I don't market it, but I generally give awareness why it is important, because we have to go to individual and talk to them. It is not about creating awareness in a column. We talk about creating awareness. Actually, the awareness is not happening. When everyone practices it, probably then the awareness achieved its purpose. So how the Swachh Bharat mission started? It is, the basic objective is to free open defecation. It is not just cleaning India. So like that, we have to have a movement regarding this water conservation. Then only probably the problems will be solved in near future. So I'm happy to be a part of it. Please let me know.
Okay. Okay. Second question is just like you were telling about insisting like people to have a mini treatment plan in the families, especially the people who have their independent houses. Now apartments have made compulsory to have the water treatment plan, but individual houses are not insisted so far.
Correct.
Uh, can you just throw some lights? How much is cost or something like for a family of 4 or 5? If they have a land of 2 to 3 cents, or maybe a 2 BHK home which they have, maybe two houses in the compound, like that. If you have something, we can just
Yeah,
get in depth about.
yeah,
Yes.
definitely. That's a very good question. So if we can club two houses or three houses together, if they are okay with that, the segregated waste can be taken to one single point, anybody's compound, because it is underground structure. It need not to have in the above the surface, above the ground level. We have to just store the water. Then we have to have a basic treatment facility which comes as a compact, that we are right now. I'm working on that. So I'm planning to develop that system, a compact container based treatment system, which should cost around 1 lakh rupees probably. I'm again working on the cost cutting. So that will happen in probably 2 to 3 months down the line. Once that comes, it is completely automated system, and that can be used for individual houses. Not recommended for individual house, but two or three houses clubbed together. The intention is, if a single person can invest around 40 lakh rupees for his house, he should be able to invest 1 lakh rupee for treating his wastewater that is generated in his premises. So with that intention, we are working as a team. So we have completed the preliminary developmental stage. But once it is done, definitely I will share the details of that. Then we can see how we can proceed with that.
Okay, one more last question from my end. Basically, the science students, especially those who are interested with the nature, can they take this environmental studies as an additional subject, or they need? Can any discipline can take this as an additional subject, because this is the future where we are to take care of the mother earth. So, any studies or courses which you can suggest for us to, like
Okay.
after 12th or 10th, along with the regular
Okay.
curriculum, can you suggest us?
Yeah. UGC has recommended environmental studies for every graduate. So whoever is doing any graduate studies, irrespective of engineering or medicine or BSc, whatever you study as a graduate course, professional course, you should have environmental studies as a subject. But now it is just considered as a subject, not as an important subject. So probably Jaya Chamarajendra College of Engineering is one such college which gives out environmental engineering degree. That's the only college in the entire state of Karnataka who gives a BTech in environmental engineering. Apart from that, there will be one subject when you enter engineering or medical environmental studies. taking that as a trial, you can continue doing any kind of research, because environmental engineering is a multidisciplinary subject. It is not only one single engineer who works. Public health is also involved in that. A geology person is also required. A computer science engineer is also required. Every branch, you name every branch, he has a role in environmental engineering. So that depends on the project that he is interested. I can help if anybody is interested in that.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving us these doubts
Thank you.
solved. And I request the crowd participants, if you have any questions, kindly ask with Sharma.
Can you shed some light on how sewage can be used to assess the prevalence of viral infections like COVID-19 in a particular population? So that's the one of the questions that is put up in the chat. In sewage treatment plants, basically we can take periodic sampling, and then because it is connected through a network, what we call it as sewerage network. So when we have a sewerage underground drainage system, so we have the map of that. We can take out the map and we can identify the nodes where the sewage is, sewer network is connected to a multiple nodes. We can take a sample from individual node to assess from where the virus is entering, if at all it is entering, so that we can categorize probably this area is having a higher load of virus compared to other load. So a research oriented topic, because once it is in the sewage, we can only think of treating it, because we cannot track back to the source from where it has come. That forensics is kind of difficult in that situation. But environmental forensics, let me tell you, it is again a wonderful area for investigation. So any contaminant that is released to the environment, we can track back to the original source from where it has come. So it is not like, it is similar to medical forensics. We also do environmental forensics in that. Probably that is the answer that I can give for this. Is there any treatment required to stream water to charge borewell? Can stream water can directly deliver to? No. We cannot directly recharge the borewell. Only roof water, after 2 or 3 flushing of the roof, cleaning of the roof, then only we can recharge, that too after filtration. If you want to recharge the surface runoff, that is what I think you mean to say, that stream water. If you want to recharge that water for a open well or bore well, there should be an extensive filtration system. Otherwise, how the bore well takes out the water, there are fine holes in the subsurface through which water enters. It is something like an eye for human. So through those points, the water enters to the aquifer, and from there we are lifting it. So if we recharge, if our recharge method is wrong, those holes will be blocked by the dust particle. And ultimately, the yielding borewell may turn unyielding after recharging, unscientifically, if we do it. So we have to be very careful. Before trying for that, please consult the expert and get it verified. Otherwise, rooftop water, if we have 1000 square feet rooftop open to atmosphere, that is more than sufficient to recharge. Because as I told, per family of 4, we need around 2 lakh to 2,50,000 of liter per year. 1 acre of land with 4,000 mm of rainfall can yield up to 1 crore 80 lakh liters of surface runoff. Just imagine 1 acre of land, if we can tap the surface runoff, 1 crore 80 lakh plus liters of water. That can help. You just imagine one family requires only 2,50,000 liters. So at individual capacity, let us do using rooftop water, and then we will move towards that. That's what my idea is.
I think there are many doubts in our participants' mind, but due to lack of time, we may not be able to express now. I'm very sure in the days to come, we will definitely organize some workshops.
Yes, definitely.
Days workshop where we can use the barren land as well as the society. I take this privilege here to recognize the presence of General Manager of MCC Bank, Mr. Sunil Meneges, and also our past resource person, Mahesh Nayak, who was one of the participants. So happy to see you, sir. And all the new participants, I once again congratulate you for participating in this session. I take this privilege from Preston Knowledge Foundation, giving us the opportunity to partner with for the development of youth program on behalf of Knowledge Foundation. I once again take the privilege and A1 Logic for the technical launched on May 18th. And Nitin Shetty, of course, is the coordinator and he does all the work. I thank you, Nitin, and all of you participants. Every week, we let us meet together and discuss valuable things which you can add little bit to the society. Thank you, one and all. And with all your permission, I request host to close the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Shall I close the meeting, sir?